other side, yeah, of course, it's very difficult. So one of the things, half of my job is telling people, don't do this, don't do that, or be careful, because if you go to court, that judge is going to read all your messages. So don't call them every name in the book, or that judge is going to see your social media profile messages. That's evidence. So don't spill the tea.
Welcome to another episode coming at you from ChooseYourRelationships.com, author of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. So today, I have another special guest. However, before I get into that, share this episode, tell me what you think. And if you have any questions, any concerns, anything you want me to help you with, the best way to get in contact with me is to go to ChooseYourRelationships.com. That's ChooseYourRelationships.com. And probably the second best way to contact me, if you have any questions or any concerns, anything I can help you with, is probably Instagram. My Instagram, the link will be below. And also you can just, if you go to Instagram and you type in hashtag SharpGame, my profile will pull up automatically. So those are the easiest ways to get in contact with me. So with that being said, my special guest today is a divorce and family law attorney. She gives relationship advice, making sure you're in a healthy relationship or helping you get out of a toxic relationship. Most people don't realize that the history of relationship and psychology of both parties can be a huge factor. Knowing how to handle a high conflict spouse or co-parent is a science. A good divorce and family law attorney should know how to tactfully navigate these personalities to better advocate for their clients. Aside from practicing law, she's a mother of twin girls, a wife, and she owns her own law firm. My special guest today is Krystine Cardona. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much, Lopez.
Yeah, same to you. So thanks so much for coming on once again. So where are you from originally?
I'm from Miami, born and raised here in Miami, Florida. I was like, I think there's a Miami somewhere in Ohio. It's Florida.
Yeah, Miami is one of my favorite places to visit. I've been down there many times.
Mm-hmm. Why? What's your favorite place to visit in Miami?
Probably North Beach. North Beach side. Most people would say South Beach. Most people would say that.
They do, yeah, that's true. That is true. Or like Wynwood or Brickell or
Bayview. Bayview area too.
Yeah, that's all beautiful. That's all really. I'm from West Kendall. West Kendall, Miami is like, I didn't know this was not normal. It was normal for me, but like when I would go anywhere, people would automatically speak Spanish. So I grew up with like everyone speaking Spanish. That's obviously not the regular, you go anywhere outside of Miami or even the other side of Miami and like they'll talk to you in English. So it's like a culture shock. But yeah, Miami is really pretty and it's really nice right about now. Just saying.
Yeah, when I first came down there, I saw the same thing. Everybody was speaking Spanish, so I was like, "Oh."
There's more cultures here. There's definitely more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just happen to be. It's like in my high school, I would ask people where they're from, and they would literally name a country. Like everyone was just from a different country. I just thought that was normal until I went up to Tallahassee for school, and I was like, that's not the norm. Everyone's from literally Florida or from a different state, and then people spoke English as their primary language. So yeah.
I thought it was I thought the first time I went there, I thought it was a very interesting place because the first time we stayed outside of Miami in the Western area.
Oh,
we stayed at the resorts the first time.
Yeah.
And then we drove to Miami from there. Which I didn't realize how close it was. I said, "Oh, this is not far at all."
That's not so bad. Yeah. It's pretty close.
Yeah. So how long have you been practicing law?
Now 8 years.
8 years?
Yeah, since about 2014.
Okay, so did you grow up in a family that was anyone else practicing law, or was it always that you wanted?
No. I had no idea. No one in my family was an attorney except maybe my grandpa's brother from like Cuba from back in the day that I don't even remember. I may have met when I was like 2 years old. I had no idea what attorneys did. My parents didn't even go to college. So, they came here from Cuba when they were 7. They went to school. My mom was and still is secretary, and my dad worked in downtown Miami with I don't know if you saw when you went to downtown, it was like the Metro Mover. So he fixes the Metro Mover. I mean, he's retired now. He went to the Army, but no, I had no idea what even a lawyer did. I just knew I liked women's rights. I knew I liked relationship stuff. I found that interesting. I knew I had to get good grades to go, to kind of get to the next level, because my parents were not going to be like, oh, here's a bunch of money, go to college. That wasn't going to happen. It was more like, hey, if you want to go, you got to get a scholarship. You got to figure it out. So then in school that I realized I really like this, and I kind of just progressed from there. And I was like, I guess I should probably consider law school, because if you're looking at women's rights or children's rights, that would be the place to go. So I kind of ended up there ironically, but I love what I do. I really do. I could talk about it all day, which is why I'm here. So yeah.
I said if I could do it all over again, I would have went to law school. If I knew what I knew today, when I was a kid, I would have went to law school. But I didn't know. Go back.
Go if you want to. No. No.
I'm about 50.
No, you really? Are you really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'm 48. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh shit. Can I say that? All right. Well, I'll tell you one thing though. My 2 bosses, when I finished law school with my 2 former bosses, they both did law as a second career. One of them was like a teacher. The other one, I think she was a teacher also. And I thought they were better attorneys because they had practical advice and they were able to relate to their clients. A lot of people, some people, they go to college, they go to law school, and it's just kind of like you're going through the motions without really finding out whether you really like it and whether you want to be in that industry, or whether you can even afford it, because there's got to get loans or scholarships, or it can get expensive.
Yeah.
But I will say that I feel like the mature students were the ones that went back to law school after working or having a family. Really appreciated it. So I don't know. I still think you should go. I don't know. Keep me posted if you need anything. I'm happy to help you.
I appreciate that. But no, what happened is I went in the military. I went in the Navy after high school, and then
for serving.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then after I got out of the Navy, I went to college. Then I went into the IT field.
Very cool.
Yeah, I went, completely different route. But the funny thing is, I knew a couple. I still know a couple of guys that I was in the Navy with. They went to law school after they got out of the Navy.
And where are they now? Do they still practice, or are they like no?
Yeah, they still practice.
They like it. Yeah. I think the most important thing is find something you really love to do, not because your mom, your mom did it, your dad did it, or somebody because otherwise you're wasting your energy and your time, and that's more important. And then when you don't like it, you could tell. You could tell the attorneys that just went in because they just thought that was the next thing, and they're like, robots. You know, you really want to feel like you care, you know, and you want to hire someone that cares about your case and like you as a person. Well, cool. That's good that they like what they do. Usually after 5 years, I see people kind of change paths and go into a different direction. But
yeah, hey. It's been what, 10, 15 years for both of them now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So when you got out of college, did you work for somebody else or did you start your own firm right away?
Oh no, I didn't even know I wanted to start my own firm because I knew whether it's a firm or any business, what I did know is that whoever has a business, that is a job in and of itself, taking care of the business. I was intimidated by that. Just thinking about doing that was like, whoa. No, out of college, I worked at a law firm just because they had an admin position available. It was 2008, 2009. It's hard to get any job whatsoever. People were losing jobs. So I was like, whatever I can get. You have an admin position? Awesome. I'll be there. I was there for a couple years, and that's when I was like, all right, maybe I can make the jump and go into school. And then went into school, took a couple classes. My favorite ended up being family law. And then that's why I stuck with family law. I could read it. I enjoyed it. And I like to like relate to people one-on-one. And it just became natural. But it definitely wasn't straight from college to law school. That wasn't like a straight path. It was like, you know, an uphill battle, I would say.
Yeah, you know, years ago, I met this guy when when I got out of college, you know, I had a couple of job offers, right? And then I ended up going into marketing, right? Mainly online marketing, right? And I met this attorney and he wanted me to make him famous online. Yeah, he wanted me to make him famous online. He was his specialty were bankruptcy, you know, and that was his thing. He basically he would mainly work with mainly people, not so much corporate companies. But he said, hey, I want you, because he saw what happened is he saw like I had another channel like years ago. It was about direct sales, right? And he saw my channel and says, hey, you know, I want you to make me famous. I want a channel and I want videos just like that. I'm like, oh God.
How'd that go?
I didn't work with him, but I gave him some pointers, you know. I just thought that was funny, you know, because he said, hey, you know, I need a way to stick out from a lot of these attorneys, because he told me that when you go to law school, they don't teach you exactly how to run a business. He said
they don't. He's right.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And he said they don't teach you how to really be a good attorney either. He said you have to really learn. You know, it's not like. That's true. Yeah, see, I didn't know that.
I didn't either when I went in. I was like, I kind of figured you learned everything there. That's what they kept telling me. I was like, what do I do to prepare? Do I do pre-law? Is there even a thing? And they're like, they'll just teach you everything you need to know. That's not really true. Whatever you read in the books is, you know, it's paper, it's a book, but that doesn't mean that it happens in real life or that's the best way to resolve something. And when you're litigating, when you're actually going to court, what you read about is different from what a judge may order or may rule. And sometimes the judges make bad decisions. Like, that's why there's appellate courts. And so you may not agree with it, or you may have a reason why you think you're right. And then you have to go and appeal. But no one tells you how like frustrating it could be. Like, wait a minute, I had everything ready to go. Why did we lose? I thought we were going to win. You know, sometimes that happens and you do have to file that appeal and you get it corrected, but they don't teach you that in law school. And if your client spent a bunch of money litigating something and then just to lose, it's infuriating. So the books don't teach you that. You just learn that. Or you can find a mentor would be amazing. And then you kind of learn more. Honestly, I learned more from my mentor in law school. I was her like basically secretary admin, and she took me to court. She took me everywhere, which was very nice of her because I had no idea. You know, I only knew what my parents taught me and what I saw in school, which was like reading and writing and research, but not like the practical part of it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah. So how did you what made you start giving advice to your clients? What made you start? Because I've
Wait,
never seen that.
well,
I never seen that
where do
before.
I begin? Okay, so for attorneys, technically, you know how in movies they say counselor, right? So we're supposed to counsel people, and that's part of the second, like in family laws, especially. I would say a lot of that is counseling. A client will come in. I had one client tell me that they were not going to give the other parent an overnight, and I was like, why? What was your reason? Oh no, they don't have this, they don't have that. I'm like, do you want to go to court and get yelled at by the judge? So I had to counsel them, and I was like, and I'm trying to say them so I don't, because it's a former client, and they're doing well, they reconciled, but at that point I had to tell them, like, I understand that maybe your partner was not a good partner during the relationship, but that doesn't mean that they're a bad parent. And unfortunately, you got to separate the two. Even though you may have all these feelings against the other side, like, you got to put those feelings aside, because if they're a really good parent, they need to be there for your kid, and you need to get over it, basically.
Yeah, 100%.
In a nicer way, of course. I didn't say it's so hostile, but they do. They have to learn that they're going to have to co-parent, and that's a long relationship. It's infuriating, or it could be great. If you have a high conflict person on the other side, yeah, of course, it's very difficult. So one of the things, half of my job is telling people, don't do this, don't do that, or be careful, because if you go to court, that judge is going to read all your messages. So don't call them every name in the book, or that judge is going to see your social media profile messages. That's evidence. So don't spill the tea on your Facebook page or your Instagram page. Do it with your friends later. Don't tell everybody, because then they can use it against you. They're like, oh, are you gatekeeping? Are you alienating? Those are things that could be used. So I think half the job, obviously, other than being an attorney and knowing what you're supposed to be doing, is counseling the client not to do something that could affect them in court, because the optics can change, and you don't want the judge to be holding something against you. So
yeah, especially today. I've heard horror stories of people, like, stuff they post online, and some of it is being used against them. I said, oh God.
Yep. Pictures. I mean, if you tell me you don't have any money to pay alimony, but then all of a sudden you buy a Bentley, obviously you have money to pay. So you got to be careful what you post. And same thing goes for any other partner. And I'm saying that I would say gender neutral, because women can pay alimony to men too. It's not men only paying alimony to women. It's based on the life. Obviously there's a bunch of factors, but it's a need and ability to pay. So if, the partner was home, and depending on the breadwinner, then it's the breadwinner who would have that exposure for alimony. So regardless of the gender, be careful what you post on social media, because that can be used against you in court. People forget about that, because, emotions run high and they have a knee-jerk reaction. But then us attorneys go in and we look at it, we take a screenshot, and we use it as an exhibit. It sounds terrible, but if, it may break or like win a case. So
yeah. Now somebody's gonna listen to this. They're gonna be like, wait a minute now. How can you be married?
I know. I asked myself the same thing.
And at the same time, how can you be an advocate but be a divorce attorney? Somebody's gonna ask that.
I agree with the most, well, I won't even get to that. But I believe in the institution of marriage, just not a toxic marriage. So if your partner is is toxic, and I can get into what that means, or obviously domestic violence, or physical, emotional, financial, get out of there. You don't need to be there. It's not healthy, and the kids, if you have kids, they're watching, and that's obviously not a good place for them, and detrimental. But otherwise, I do believe in a healthy relationship. Statistically, it's healthy for men too. I think they live longer if they're married.
Yeah.
But I do believe. But the thing is that one of the most what people forget is that one of the most important things you do in your life is to choose your partner. And I say partner because I don't really care, like heterosexual, same, sex, it doesn't matter. Whoever you choose to be your partner, because if you end up marrying them, it's like a business transaction. If they are a spender and they go into debt, you have exposure to go into debt. Now you may have to go pay half that debt, and you're responsible for that. But if you choose an amazing partner, they may be able to help you thrive in life and grow to become a better person. So
I'm for marriage. A lot of people say that. Well, I don't talk about marriage a lot. But hey, I'm a married guy. I'm not against it. But the only thing I always say is you have to be careful who you get involved with.
Absolutely.
If you get involved with the wrong person, and maybe they get upset and do something crazy, you got involved with that person.
I know. Well, that's the thing is when they come to my office, I have clients who are like, well, he did this and he did that. I'm like, okay, how was he at the beginning? Oh yeah, he did that too. I'm like, okay, so you knew that was going to happen and you got married anyway. Like, I can't help you with that, or she too. Same thing. Doesn't matter the gender. Same thing. Yeah. Sometimes people just want to, they go in blindfolded or they want to avoid those topics. They don't talk about it. I think it's healthy for people to talk about everything right before they get married. And if the other person can't talk about it, then that's a red flag. And the problem is that people, you're in love, you want everything to go well, you don't want to bring stuff up. So all those red flags, you kind of just disregard them, and then they show up. They show up when you have stressors. They show up when you have mortgage payment to pay, you don't have any money, or kids. I mean, I think my dad gave me really good advice when I was little, and he was like, hey, if you and your boyfriend are having all these issues and you don't even have kids yet or a mortgage, that's not the one for you. It's true. Very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple. Keep it simple. If you guys are having all these arguments, for what? You have nothing going on in your life. What is there to argue about? Generally speaking, obviously. Yeah. There's other important issues that people have. But at that time in my life, I was like, you're right. I'm healthy. He's healthy. What is there to fight about? And if we're fighting about stupid crap right now, it's only going to get worse. Like when you have real stressors, like if your kid is sick or whatever reason, any other issues with kids or marriage or mortgage. So yeah, I think people avoid talking about it. That's why I think prenups are great also. Talk about it. Because if you don't sign a prenup, your prenup is essentially the state laws. You're just supposed to follow whatever laws of the state that you live in. So if you do sign a prenup, then you can create your own, however you want to divide it. And you can always amend it later. You can always revise it in the future. Okay. After even getting married. Like, it doesn't have to be stagnant. You can sign a prenup, waiving alimony, or deciding however you want to do it. Maybe you have kids from a prior marriage, and if something happens to you, you want that child to inherit instead of your spouse. This happens a lot maybe with second marriages where they're a little bit older and they want their kids or grandkids to inherit. I mean, there's all these different reasons why someone would want that, but you can always sign the prenup and then change it up in 5 years. If you really do want to do alimony, that's fine. But yeah, if your soon-to-be partner doesn't want to talk about finances and just like real issues, then that's run for the hills. Yeah. Exactly. You're gonna end up in my office.
Oh God. So hey, I've heard rumors about this. I don't know anyone that actually had this experience, but do judges throw out prenups? Is that true? Does it happen?
It has. If you don't get your prenup, I'm glad you're asking me this, because sometimes people call me and they're like, hey, can you crank out a prenup? I'm like, we don't crank out prenups. It does take a lot more thought. And you want your attorney to do a really good job, because that's what happens. If they do a bad job or you don't do it based on what you have to make sure that you have in there, I'll give you a couple examples. Then when someone argues against it later, like let's say you get married and then after, let's say 5 years, your partner's like, oh, I don't want to follow the prenup. You're like, what are you talking about? We spent a bunch of money signing a prenup. Why are you not signing it? You don't want to follow it after everything we did? No. They'll go take you to court. And then it's up to the judge to determine whether they want to follow the prenup or not. So you want to make sure that when they originally created it, that they did it the best way possible. It's like ironclad. I'll give you an example. So we're in Miami. I just had a client who signed a prenup. He speaks Spanish. So I had to call the opposing side. And I was like, hey, if you want to know that he's signing something he understands, we prepared a prenup, make sure it's translated into the language he speaks. Otherwise, in the future, that could be a basis to set it aside. He didn't even know what he was signing. Another thing is financial disclosure. Before you sign anything, how do you know what you're signing and what you're waiving if you haven't even seen what they have? Like, you want to waive alimony? Cool. You want to waive their retirement and pension? Cool. How are you going to waive something if you don't even know what they have on their end? So one of the things you got to do before signing a prenup is exchanging those like financial documents. People don't realize that, but you go ahead, you initial it, you make sure everything, you cross your T's, dot your I's, and that's a way not to have that set aside in the future.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, yeah. So do people come to you for advice before they get married?
I feel like more people should. I feel like people should talk to a divorce. It sounds bad, but we really do have really good relationship advice because we constantly see people that I wish I could have talked to them 10 years ago, and been like, hey, if they do this, maybe go to therapy because they could have probably corrected something or changed something. What happens is after a period of time, someone's already over it and then they just moved on. And now therapy or counseling can't really save their relationship anymore. So you should, like, if anybody called me and they're like, hey, I want to set a consultation to just talk about my relationship and whether I should even sign a prenup or not, or how I protect myself, I would gladly, chat with them and be like, be careful.
Yeah.
Or not. I mean, maybe I tell you don't sign a prenup, depending on who you're marrying. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I would say it all comes down to the person you're dealing with.
Right.
Because I know some people, they didn't sign no prenup. I'm like, we didn't need that. Like, it's like,
I know. I'm like, well, some people I'm like, don't sign a prenup. What are you gonna sign a prenup for? The Florida law helps you. You know what I would tell people? If you have a business, sign a prenup. You know why? Because even if you had the business before the marriage, if the business appreciates, that appreciation, like let's say it grows substantially, your partner may have an interest in that growth, even though you assume like, no, it's my business. No, now that person has an interest and now that's going to be subject to the divorce. I know, it's crazy. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Florida,
yeah.
Florida, I was told this, a couple of weeks, 3 months ago, I was in Sarasota at a real estate conference, right? Mm-hmm. And somebody told me in Florida, the divorces go through fast compared to most other states. Is that true?
Yeah, you could. I've done a divorce in 3 weeks.
Oh, man.
Yeah. You know why? Are you in North Carolina?
Yeah, I'm in Charlotte.
You're in Charlotte. Okay. We have family in Charlotte. Okay. So I don't know about North Carolina. I know in other states where they have like a separation. So you have to be separated for a year before you can even file for divorce. There's probably like some sort of an exception if there's maybe domestic violence or something. But generally speaking, so now it's like, in order to get a divorce, you have to wait a year. I personally think that's archaic. What if you just don't want to be together anymore? Like, why are you controlling what I have to be with this person another year? That's not fair. For Florida, it's no fault. So you don't have to prove anything. The judge does not care if there was adultery or if there was abandonment. I mean, they would care if it related to something in the case. So for instance, if you had an affair generally and you spent a ton of money going to Paris and you use marital funds, that's when the judge that's when it matters. Why? Because you use marital funds. So now your partner can ask for a reimbursement for funds you just spent going to Europe, whatever, with your significant other. But otherwise, like generally, it's a no-fault state. So there's no separation period. There's no fault. And then in Miami-Dade, as long as everybody's on the same page, and let's say everyone signed an agreement, you guys came to a settlement, and you're like, all right, I'm good. We sign everything. We submit everything electronically. So we don't even have a final hearing. You can avoid a final hearing. So,
yeah, Florida is different, man.
It is.
Because I always thought that being separated for 1 year, I always thought that was weird. I'm like, what's the hold? What's holding y'all up? Why?
It's true. I think it's archaic, and I personally know someone who was waiting for the separation period, and it's like, okay, well, what are you supposed to do if you guys don't get along? You wait now.
Yeah.
You're supposed to stay under one house. What if that other person is actually super toxic and you want to get out of that situation? You're just prolonging that. It's ridiculous. So I personally don't understand it, don't agree with it. Not cool. But yeah, now that doesn't mean, in other counties in Florida, I think you still have, like the other day, I still had to go to a final hearing. A lot of them are via Zoom now, which is better for the client, to be honest. The less the attorney has to travel and the less time in court, the cheaper it is, like the more economic it is. You don't want to pay an attorney to drive for an hour to go to court and drive back. That's 2 hours of travel you have to pay for with like minimal time in the actual courthouse. So the Zoom hearings are actually helpful for clients to it's more efficient. But yeah, I would say the divorce, if you have a high conflict person on their side, or you have to, there's assets you have to find, or child custody issues. Yeah, obviously that takes longer, but if it's uncontested, it could be very quick.
Yeah, I saw my brother go through that. He was that was a bad situation, man. And I think once he hit the 6-month mark, he was like, man, what the hell we need an attorney for? Because he said, I just keep paying out money. Look, he just called him one day and said, hey, let's just come, let's sit down and work this thing out. I'll give you whatever you want. And that's it.
Don't give her everything, but I would say a lot of times you can try, if you can, if the other person's open to it, try to work it out between yourselves. And now when you write it out, definitely I still would check with an attorney, because a lot of people, let's say you want to divide a retirement account. If you don't do it correctly, the right way, it won't be able to be done, or maybe you're going to have issues later, or even tax consequences. Sometimes there's tax consequences to certain things you want to do. But otherwise, don't waste the money fighting in court if you don't have to, especially if you can come to an agreement. I tell my clients all the time, if you're able to talk to the other side, all right, wait a couple days, maybe grab a beer and sit them down and try to talk and try to deal with it. If you can't, that's different. And those are situations that those are the cases that I take a while. But overall, if you can spend that money sending your kid, doing other things, like going on a vacation or for your kids' college. But emotions get in the way a lot.
Oh yeah.
He said, she said, it's pettiness. So if you can rise above it and be like, you know what, whatever, I just want to get this done. I want to make sure I get it done right. It could be a lot quicker.
Yeah. So here's my last question. How did you know? How did you know? How did you have the confidence to know that, hey, I can do this? I can start my own firm. I can get clients. I can be their trusted advisor. How did you know you could do it?
All right. So I started my firm a year and a half ago, and I was out 8 years. So at that point, okay, I had a mentor. So if I had questions, you're always able to brainstorm with other legal minds, because sometimes not every case is a cookie cutter case, and you don't want cookie cutter cases. You want to help people, but sometimes every family is different with different circumstances. So sometimes I'm like, I need to research something. I've never had that issue before, and the judge hasn't ruled on that before. Let me take a look. So anyway, long story short is after a certain number of years practicing, you kind of get an idea. Okay, I can handle this case. I can handle that case. We're cool. What made me leave and go on my own? Twins. Kids. We don't have twins in the family. That it was a surprise, obviously a blessing, but it was a surprise. And I was in the hospital for 7 weeks before we gave birth. I would say we didn't really mean. Just monitoring, because it was super high risk.
Okay.
So what happens? They're born, the first 3 months, we're sleep deprived. I go back to work and I'm like, I can't. I'm not doing this anymore. I got to take a step back because it's exhausting. It's just trying to balance both. So I was like, whatever, let's just see what happens. I'm going to take a couple of small cases, take a step back, maybe help my husband and his, like whatever he does and in his business and see. And then we just grew. Like I had a couple more clients, turned into more clients, turned into more. And then now I have a paralegal, a legal assistant, and I'm here with you today. So it just naturally grew. I just wanted to help people and it worked.
That's great. That's good.
I think it was the hormones after having kids, honestly. At that point, I was like, I just can't. I don't have time for this. And you need the flexibility because, you know, if your kids are sick and you have to go to the doctor and you have to do this or that, no, you know, when it's that many times, I feel like your boss isn't going to be so flexible, understanding. So you have to just create your own rules.
Yeah. That's so. You know, that's why when I have kids, I'm gonna spend as much time with my kids as possible. I'm not gonna be out there all the time, and no.
I mean, it depends on the person, you know. Like I knew. Yeah. So I was at a firm, great attorney, great firm, really interesting cases, but we would leave the office sometimes pretty late. I literally can't. I have to go literally feed the kids, you know? So I can't leave the office at 8, 9, 10 o'clock every other day. You just can't. You physically can't. So it was more like it was a need. And then I don't know, what was the worst that can happen? You go get it. You try it out for a month and see what happens. And if not, then you go and make a lateral move and you go somewhere else. That's really the way I saw it. Yeah, and I know that on the same note, I understand that that's a privilege also. The only reason I'm able to do it is because we had childcare and my parents live here. So when I say worst thing that can happen, obviously, if you're dependent on that, do not do that. I was able to do it because I thought, okay, worst case scenario, I know I still have a roof over my head. There's AC and no be food, and we can move on.
Yeah, but it really takes a village to have a family. It really does. It's tough if it's just you and him. It's tough
for sure.
Yeah.
No, I would not have done that if it was just me and him. Absolutely not. That's why I say I say that, but I also know that that's like my grandparents would not have been able to do that, or even my parents. So that's how it happened.
So people wanted to use your services, follow you. Where would they go to?
Sure. Oh, well, kcpafamilylaw.com, right? You can click on the consultation link and then email my firm, or you can go on Instagram or Facebook. I would say Instagram, I have more posts, and then there's some free resources. So there's some educational posts there that may be helpful. And my Instagram, like the handle is Krystine Cardona PA. So at Krystine Cardona PA. So at Krystine Cardona, Cardona PA. You'll find me there, and you can always message me for any questions. And if you're in North Carolina or any other state, you can always message me anyway. I can't help. I can only help. So I can only take you on as a client if you're in Florida, because I'm licensed in Florida. But sometimes I do know of other attorneys that are in other states. So I know of attorneys that are in North Carolina to be like, hey, you know what? Great. I have a great attorney for you here, you know, and I can try to steer you in the right direction. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. If there's any way I can help, please let me know.
There you have it. Like, share this episode. Tell me what you think below. Until next time, we're out. Peace. If you like this video, share this video. And if you want to support my channel, click the thanks tab and leave me a donation. 2, 5, 10.